Fellow tennis nerds, Coach Adri back on the channel. Today we're going to talk about the one-handed backhand. We're going to discuss the stroke, maybe why it's diminished a bit in popularity on the ATP Tour, give you some tips and tricks. And first I'm going to ask Adri, who has a nice one-handed backhand and can describe a little bit why he started with that as a junior, because it's quite rare these days.
I remember when I first started playing tennis, my coach, of course, and I say of course because that's what we coaches normally do, we put the child, the racket in two hands when it comes to the backhand, and just let them swing with two hands from the very beginning, and that's usually what we always do. And then I remember I quit tennis for many years, and then when I was 7 or 8, I started again. And then I just, from watching, I guess, Federer on TV, I just said I want to hit it like this, and my then coach didn't really say no to that. He just kind of let me do it. I remember I suffered a long time with my one-hander backhand, just because the one-hander backhand, you need so much strength on your forearm, and when you're at that age, you don't have that strength, at least not naturally. You need a lot of good technique to create power with the one-hand backhand. Catch the ball in front, you need to kind of brush the ball, and you only have one arm on the racket and at the end of the racket, so it's difficult to move the racket around. I did suffer a lot. I remember when I first started competing, when I was 10, 11 years old, all the players were hitting like high balls to my backhand. I don't know if they noticed, but I do know that the mother or father or coach behind the fence were telling him, high balls to the backhand, high balls to the backhand, and then of course I had a really tough time. However, thanks to that, I do think, or I do feel like my one-hander backhand is one of my better shots, at least one of my more stable shots. I feel like I can do anything from the backhand side. My forehand may be a little bit more of a weapon, but my one-hander, I feel like I'm quite solid. I can place it anywhere I want. I have the slice if I need that. And that's all thanks for all those players back when I was a young child, hitting every ball to my backhand. I've just had to learn to deal with it, and now I'm thankful for it.
Yeah, and you see that on the tour as well. Like, that's generally the tactic most people do, even against strong backhanded players like Stan the Man and Musetti. In one way, it's like, okay, we're going to hit high balls to the one-handed backhand. I think maybe Rafa made that strategy even more famous, you know, when he's playing against Roger.
Yeah.
So that's definitely an issue for the one-handed backhand player, but you know, it makes you stronger. When it comes to your students, do you have any players with one-handed backhands, and have you tried to teach them away from it, or what's your approach with players?
One of my students has a one-hand backhand. He's 11 years old, and he came to me. We started working together since a year ago, and when he came to me, he already had a one-hand backhand, and he's already 10 years old and been hitting one-hander backhand since he was a young child. Playing with the father and other coaches, and he came to me like that, and I never taught him away from it because it's already really developed. He can really rip a good backhand, he can place it, he can bring it higher, he can bring it lower. Of course, as a 10 or 11-year-old, you don't have
strength, I guess that's the
all
main
the
thing.
Strength to do everything perfectly, but I can really see that he will get that strength. I do know that at the moment he's suffering a little bit in terms of results. He plays some local tournaments now and then, and he struggles to win matches just because all the players are hitting everything to the backhand. But I can really empathize on that, because I remember that was happening to me, and I know it's not a long-term problem. It's a problem for him at the moment, but it's not going to continue to be a problem forever. I do know that he can hit a backhand for sure. He has a good technique, he contacts it in front, he's able to move the wrist on impact, get some rotations on the ball. So it's just a matter of time when he's going to get a little bit more strength. Maybe when he turns 12, 13, 14 years old, he's going to get his forearm a little bit stronger, a little bit more confident through practicing daily, weekly, yearly, and he will get it in the end. So basically, I do teach a child a two-hander backhand from the very beginning, but in this case, the player already came to me with a one-hander backhand and already really developed. So I wouldn't want to take that away from him and then kind of learn a two-hander backhand from scratch. He's already too far along, let's say, with his one-hander. But I would teach a kid or a child for the first time they play tennis, or at least in the very, very beginning, I would recommend a two-hander backhand because I know that it's a little bit easier when it comes to the later stages in tennis, where the ball is faster, your opponent hits harder, the serves are really fast, and just to have that left hand as an extra support where you can kind of lean into the ball a little bit more, you have a little bit more resources to go with when you have a two-hander backhand rather than a one-hand backhand, which I do think is why, as you did mention before, Jonas, that the one-hander backhand is on a down curve. It hasn't disappeared. I don't think it will ever disappear fully, but I do think there will be less and less. But I know many young children have a one-hand backhand, not as many as they used to do, but those young children now, they will be the ones playing at the highest level in about 10, 15 years' time. So then there will still be one-hander backhands on the tour. But I think the two-hander backhand has an advantage, I'd say.
Yeah, and what typical issues you see as a coach, like when players come to you, I guess the older guys, they generally have one-handed backhands, most of them, because, you know, growing up, that was the main shot you had. Like Bjorn Borg came like in the 70s and changed a little bit with his two-hander. That was more the different shot then, the more alternative way of hitting the ball. Nowadays, it's the opposite. The one-handed backhand is still going strong among especially older players, some young players, and we see some excellent players on the tour, of course, with the one-hander. But what are the things you would say stand out a little bit and is a typical issue and a problem area for rec players?
So I would say that the biggest issue with the one-hand backhand is the timing. I think that the timing sweet spot of the impact is so slim. I would say that the contact point has to be somewhere around here or here. You have about the 15 centimeter impact zone that would be your sweet spot. On the two-hand backhand, you have a much larger margin of hitting. You can kind of hit it here or here or here or here. This would obviously be ideal, but if you do catch it late, you can still kind of even generate power or at least block the ball good enough for the ball to have some kind of quality on it. With a one-hand backhand, it's either from here to here. If I were to hit a shot here, first of all, I don't have any strength. I will most likely hit the ball to the doubles alley. I will hit it late. I will definitely not have any power. Then I would probably need to slice, but then that's a different shot altogether. So that's a very difficult part of the one-hand backhand. Second thing is that your feet placement needs to be pretty much perfect for every shot you hit. Hence why on clay courts, one-hander backhands tend to suffer a little bit more because the ball misbounces quite often. Not only when it hits the lines, but also if it hits a little pile of clay, I mean, the ball is going to misbounce, even if it's a centimeter or two, but that's already a centimeter or two off center on the racket, and it will affect your shot. But on a two-hand backhand, your quicker reflexes, you can kind of impact it in any moment. If it's too high or too low, you can always use your left hand as support. And the third part that is very difficult with a one-hand backhand is catching the ball on the rise. I think that, again, back to timing, but it's very difficult because if you catch it in the right moment, it can be a fantastic shot. But if the ball gets a little bit too high, you're hitting it around shoulder height or higher, it's very tough to get the racket up and over. While on the two-hand backhand, you have your left hand as support, which is much easier to go up and over the ball. So if you catch it in the right moment, it's great. If it's too high, one-hand backhand, you're suffering. Then you have to see yourself going way back to the back fence, hit the ball, and then recover court. Two-hand backhand, you can kind of lean into the ball, hit your shot, and then recover to the middle, but you're in a much better position on court altogether.
Yeah, these are typical issues I see and have as well. And the timing issue is always key. And I think what you see a lot with players is the preparation. Like they're very quite late with the preparation. I do that myself. Like you're too late, and then the stroke is quite a long stroke generally, so it takes time, and then you get late. And like you mentioned, you have that small area of the contact point being kind of here, and if you miss that, the shot's gonna go out or be a weak shot or hit the net.
Or at least lose quality.
Lose quality, yeah, exactly.
Anything in your sweet spot, you're gonna hit a very good quality shot. If it's a little bit too far in front or a little bit too far behind, your quality drops drastically. On the two-hander backhand, you have also your sweet spot where you ideally want to contact it every time. But if you hit it a bit too early or a little bit too late, You're going to lose some quality, of course, but it's not so drastic as the one-hander. When it gets to the footwork, it's really important, to always be precise footwork, but especially on the backhand, you need to be super precise. Super precise means that you need to get to the ball, first of all, before the ball is there to hit. So you don't want to be there just on time, you want to be there before. A good phrase that I like to use is early is on time and on time is late. So early is being on time, right? So you want to get to the ball early, and once you get there early, what I like to do is I like to point my foot diagonally. That way I don't want to have it parallel to the baseline. You want to twist your foot a little bit because it allows you to rotate your body much more. You're going to feel that if you have your foot parallel to the line, your hip is blocked, you can't rotate your body, and then you're going to be hitting much more centered or even down the line, but it's really hard to get the ball cross court. And for tennis, cross court is probably one of the most important shots to know how to hit. The down line is important too, but the cross court is, one of the basics in tennis. So just keeping your foot a little bit more open is really going to help you with that. Also, as you're hitting, you really want your right leg to be anchored into the ground. When you have your leg anchored, you know that your body is totally still during impact. You hit the ball, and once you swing through, the ball has been hit and the ball is on the way to the other side. That's when you can let your body come around. What I do see very often is that you want to hit, or people hit and twist right away, but then you're going to over hit the ball and it might go too much cross. You just want to let the momentum of your body go around naturally. Should look something like hit and then go. But the body should ask to come around rather than you actually bring it around because you're told it or because you think that's what the pros do, because you do see them twisting. But they're not just twisting or rotating, they're just letting momentum do its work. That's going to help a lot. And you need to be very precise footwork. That means your split step needs to be exactly on time when your opponent is hitting, so that you have the time to react, get yourself to the ball, stop your feet, and then you just worry about the rest, which is hitting the ball.
So Coach Adri will show us, he has a little bit of a different looking backhand with the take back, I find interesting. So I want him to kind of talk through how he hits it and the important elements of, how he hits it, like how he builds up the stroke.
I can talk you through my one-handed backhand and what I believe would be the ideal one-handed backhand. Just because I hit one way definitely isn't the perfect way. It's the way I hit it, it's the way I'm comfortable with. But if I teach the one-hand backhand like I do with my student, I will teach him the following way. So my way would be, first of all, I like to have my left hand on high up on the throat. Why is that? Because even from the first stage when you're rallying or when you're playing your point, I like to have my left hand high up on the racket, on the throat, because my left hand is the one that's going to turn, and then that's already my backhand grip. Okay, so I turn this one and then I'm on my backhand grip. And then I don't move my left hand, I keep it there. I take my racket back with my left hand, although I'm holding the racket with my right, but my right is basically insignificant. I'm just holding it, but I'm not actually taking it back. I'm taking it back with my left. I know that on my preparation I have quite an open racket face. I've heard that from many people. I also see it in my own videos. It's not something that I really like, but too many years doing the same thing, it's tough for me to change now. But so yeah, I keep an open racket face, and then when I drop the racket, I drop the racket, but not the wrist so much. It's more of a wrist drop, but I don't actually drop my arm. I drop the racket using my wrist, and then when I get to the lowest point, which is about here, I will release my left. My left will go back at the same time as my arm, my hitting arm will go forward, and my tip of the racket is still down, looking down, and right before impact, that's when I'm going to start to do this movement. Okay, to the children I call it the windshield wiper. It kind of looks like a windshield wiper of the car, just like a metaphor that I like to use, because then the kids kind of think that it's easier to understand. So I do my windshield wiper as I contact. That's what's going to create the top spin. And I like to finish with my tip of the racket looking the other way, okay? I know some one-hander backhands, they like to keep the tip of the racket looking the same way. That's a much more flat shot. It can also happen if I want to hit more down the line or I want to flatten my shot. But I tend to always try to go all the way over because I feel like I can really hit through the ball. I get a little bit more quality on my shot, a little bit more depth, a little bit more power, and definitely more topspin. How I would like to teach others a one-hander backhand would be to take the racket back as low as possible, totally parallel to the floor without bringing it up at all. Just take it back, drop, and hit. I take it a little bit higher just because I was taught that way, or at least I was never corrected to do anything different. But keep the racket with a short backswing parallel to the floor. Drop the racket and then kind of go through with the same thing. Will make your swing shorter, more compact, and I'm sure that you're going to be able to hit this part of your timing much more often. The longer your backswing, the more trajectory your racket has to go through in order to find that sweet zone of impact. But the shorter your backswing, the easier it is to find. And then you can use the power of your opponent much more, so you don't get so tired. Also, you can be more precise. You don't need to generate so much power yourself. However, if you want to, you also can. And altogether, you'll be much more precise, less mistakes. You can probably even generate more power just by using your opponent's power. And overall, get more balls in and win more matches.
Great tips, Coach Adri. One question I have about the take back, which I find that interesting, because you see like guys like Stefanos and strong one-hand backhand players, Musetti, they have a pretty high take back because I think that's how they were taught, of course, but it's like maybe they get a bit more power because they have a longer swing. Yeah. But I do agree with you that like a shorter swing, especially for players on my level and club level and advanced club, whatever, you get a little bit more time, you know, because like if you have such a long swing and not the perfect footwork and you're not really that early, you're gonna mistime the ball. So that shorter swing will give you more time, even though maybe you have a little bit less power scientifically, I don't know. I mean, but I think definitely I agree with you that would be the way to work on the one-hander instead of these super long swings, you know.
Yeah, and then tennis is always evolving. I would never stick to one technique. The technique that I teach nowadays is slightly different than what I used to teach, let's say 10 years ago, because I do like to study the sport. I do like to see what way the sport is going on a technical way, but also mentally and physically. But now we're talking technique. And I do believe that the modern way of hitting a ball is going to be the more compact, the better. The guys are hitting stronger, the women are also hitting stronger. The points are also faster. I remember, I don't know, we talked about this the other day, but like 25 years ago, you'd see rallies over 10 shots constantly. And now it's like, I can't tell you exactly percentage-wise, but the majority of the points are finished between the first and the fourth shot of the points. So that's one serve, one return, that's already 2 shots, and then 1 shot here, 1 shot from your opponent, and then the point is over. Whether it's a winner from your opponent, a mistake from your opponent, or yourself in the 3rd shot. So the points are getting shorter, either due to mistakes or winners. So if we can reduce the mistakes and even catch the ball in a better timing more consistently, I'm sure we can find better spots on the court and overall have a better backhand. I don't like to say this, but for me, Federer has the most beautiful backhand ever, but I wouldn't say it's the best one-handed backhand ever. He used to frame the ball a lot. He also had quite a small head size. Later in the years, I know that he did go up on the head size, but he used to frame the ball very often, and that's a little bit due to his backswing. Also, Gasquet has quite a huge backswing also, and it's quite like a lot going on. I think Dimitrov has a beautiful backhand, I would say maybe one of the best. Wawrinka, I think, is the best, and he also had quite a direct take back and quite a direct shot, which is very efficient in the long run. He was able to hit backhand winners on the run, open stands down the line, which is, I mean, some players can do that, but I don't think anyone was doing it so comfortably and so confidently as Wawrinka. Stan the man.
Yeah, the compact swing of Stan is beauty, and I think you're right there that it looks less complicated. And you're seeing with certain players, like if they lack time, we've seen Stefanos, you know, if he has the blade, I feel like he hits the backhand less good, and he plays with the arrow, which he did for a while. I felt like he had a little bit more real estate, a little bit more free power and spin, so that helped him a bit, you know. So the game is changing, and you need to adapt. And I think it's very good that you point out that you have to not be married to a technical element of your game. You have to be able to change a little bit or adapt just a little bit, because it's difficult with muscle memory, but be ready that the game is changing, it's becoming faster, the equipment is changing with the game, and we need to move along with it.
And also there's new shots coming. I mean, I'm not going to say the drop shot is new, but we're seeing much more drop shots now than we used to do. Alcaraz being the prime example, but Marozan also incredible drop shots. He's hitting so many drop shots per match, and he's always so consistent and so well placed. There's always a pioneer, no? In tennis shots, we had a Bor with the two-hander backhand. Before that, it was only one hand. And there's a kid coming up now, ambidextrous. He's hitting a left-hander and right-handed forehands, which I don't know, time will tell if that's going to be efficient. At the moment, it seems that he's doing really well like that. Let's see if he can continue that level through the later stages and more difficult stages when the ball is faster, the opponents are hitting stronger, and he's able to switch hands fast enough and precise enough and consistently enough. You have to be extremely coordinated from both sides. I think it is possible if you teach a child when the first time they grab a racket to just do it. Maybe even teach a child to write with both hands. I don't know. That's an experiment. Let's see how this kid can do. But I wouldn't be surprised if that can be the next thing in tennis, where maybe in 50 years' time, when a few generations has passed, that we see maybe out of the top 100, maybe 5 or 10 players playing lefty and righty. That would be incredible to see. But it is like that. The one-hander backhand is dissolving, while now it's, I mean, the big majority is two-hander backhands, and then new things will come along and other things will dissolve. So I think that also keeps the sport alive and keeps the sport entertaining. We see new things, new shots, new players, new styles. Really cool.
So what I noticed there is, like, obviously I try to give you low balls, high balls, short balls, a little bit different. And how do you address that in your head, like the distancing of the ball and the height of the ball?
As we did talk earlier, the sweet zone of the one-hand backhand contact point is very slim, somewhere between here and there, okay? Well in front of you, as you can see. I don't want to be in line with my body, I want to be in front of my body. Second is that you want to hit the ball always in the same height, okay? So if the ball comes high and is going to bounce, you predict the bounce, you know more or less where it's going to bounce, how high it will bounce. No matter how high or how low the ball is, you want to move your feet in order to hit the ball somewhere between your waist and your shoulders. Anything between your waist and your shoulders can be considered your sweet spot for impact. From your waist and up goes from, I mean, if your shoulder is good, a little bit higher is less good, and then less good, even less, and then bad, bad, and super bad. And then the same goes from your waist and down. So your waist is good, anything lower is less good, even worse, and then bad, bad, and then from down here, it's super bad. So sweet spot is any between shoulders and waist, and well in front of you. So you need to move your feet according to where you predict you're going to impact your ball. If you see the ball has a lot of topspin, is coming high, and you don't feel confident or you didn't see the opportunity to step in, you need to move back enough to hit the ball here. Okay, there's no way that you can be lazy and say, no, I'm just going to stand here and impact the ball up here. Maybe you can, maybe you'll hit the ball, maybe your ball will go in, but you're losing a lot of quality on your shot. Maybe you're happy that you got the ball in, but very often you're going to see that next shot, I mean, your shot's going to be short, and the next shot coming is going to be an aggressive ball, an attacking shot, and whatnot. So really try to always impact your ball between your waist and your shoulders. If you see yourself have to move forward, you do that in order to hit the ball here. Don't just stay there and then see yourself hitting down here. Really move in as much as you need to hit the ball here, or move back to hit the ball here. If the ball comes really high, maybe you even want to lift your body a little bit up so you get a little bit more room and you can still keep your impact under your shoulder. But it's super tough to hit the ball from shoulder and up, especially on a one-hand backhand. Two-hander, you can get away with it. You have your left hand. You can even see that I can hit the ball even with my tip of the racket looking a little bit upwards towards the sky. But one-hand backhand, this is super tough. The ball will probably go down to the net, or if you don't get wrap your wrist around it, it's going to go up to the sky. Super difficult. From below, you can, not ideal, then probably better to slice between your waist and shoulders and well in front of you and move your legs, everything necessary to be able to do that. So you get the best quality on your shot, and you're going to see it's going to help your shots a lot from your backhand side. You're going to be able to be more precise, hit deeper, hit stronger.
One thing I personally sometimes struggle with is to get enough spin on the ball. I try to hit like I often hit the one-hander quite flat, and I would like to have more controlled spin to be able to control it, especially cross court. And are there any ideas on how you can work on that kind of the wrist movement that you do?
I mean, I'm going to start with a phrase that helps me a lot and helps my students is the more spin, the more you'll hit in. Why is that? Because the more spin, you're going to get more height over the net. You can comfortably hit anything from half a meter above the net to 3 meters above the net. Remember that the net in the center is 3 feet tall, is 91.4 centimeters approximately. And from the net cord and up, there's a very long way. So you can never hit too high, okay? You don't want to hit it up to the sky, but you get my point. So when you hit with spin, you're going to hit well over the net, and the spin, the rotation of the ball, will make the ball drop. So when the ball drops, it's going to land, most likely, obviously with more practice the better, but it's going to land within the baseline. So if you can always get it over the net and always get it within the baseline, your shots are basically always in. Maybe if you did a bit late or a bit early, they might go to the doubles alleys or even further wide, but with practice that shouldn't happen. Just really practice on getting a lot of spin. I'm going to teach you a movement that's going to help you spin the ball more. So the butt cap, I'm going to use the net as a reference. The net is my waist height, so it's a good reference point, but it can be anything between your waist and your shoulder height. You want to start with the butt cap on the net cord. You want to drop the tip of the racket, bring the tip of the racket to the net, and then practice this movement, okay? I'm going to stand a little bit further from the net because I want to be hitting the ball in front. So same thing, I drop, I bring it to the net, and I practice this one. As you can see, I keep my wrist on the net cord and I just practice going from below and up, from below and up. And if you practice this movement over and over, day by day, this movement is going to feel really natural. Okay?
Yeah, this is a great tip to do with the Topspin Pro. If you've seen that machine, it has like a stationary ball. I have it, I've used it, and it's great with students. Like you have the stationary ball and then you can work with that one. You can actually hit the ball as well and it moves and comes back. And I think that's a great way to get that top spin, like whether it's a forehand or a backhand, but on the backhand, obviously, it's a little bit more of a demanding shot than the forehand.
Yeah. No, Topspin Pro is super good for exactly this. I've used it, I have it, I've lent it away actually to one of my students, so I don't have it on me right now. But yeah, I like it so much that I lent it away to one of my students so he can practice at home. It's also really good for, now we're talking about one-hander, but even for the two-handers to practice the same movement but with their left hand.
Yep.
Right, because if we're right-handed, you're not so coordinated with the left, so just to really practice that movement with your left is going to help. But now we're talking one-hander, so you can do the same with one hand, just really brush the ball. The Topspin Pro works really well. You can also take a basket, drop the ball. You can be quite close to the net just to really ensure that you get it over, drop it and brush, and you just practice that movement. You can have a basket next to you, take another ball, drop, and brush.
Yep.
You drop and brush. And just that feel, you just need like the sensation of brushing the ball. Feel that the ball is coming off, let's say 5 or 6 strings. You're gonna hear it. When you get it, you're gonna hear it. It's gonna make more of like a buzzing sound, like a bee, let's say, more of a a compact impact, more like a zzz instead of blah.
Yeah.
Right, and when you get that sound, you're going to feel it, and it's a matter of feeling. And then you can maybe have someone throw the ball at you or practice it in your rallies just to get that impact in the same feeling as when you're just tossing the ball to yourself. Because at the end of the day, it's the same movement. The timing gets more demanding when the ball's coming at you, but at the end of the day, it's the same movement. Practice the movement, you're going to feel confident to be able to do it in a live ball.
All right, so we talked about the preparation, we talked about the contact point, which is very important, but when you finish the stroke on the one-hand backhand, it's quite an important part of it, because you can see like them using both the arms stretched out, kind of like a bird, and it's an ideal way of finishing that many don't do. What kind of tips do you have for the players?
Yeah, a lot of people don't put the necessary importance in the finishing. And I can understand it, but at the same time I can't understand it. Reason being is because I understand that people are not interested in the finishing because they can think that I've hit the ball already is on the way to the other side, so why does what I do after impact matter? It does matter because it changes the course of your actual movement depending on how you finish. If I finish way up here, there's no way that I can hit the shot in the same way finishing up here than if I were to finish here and not going through the same trajectory, right? So at the end of the day, it's all biomechanics. You want to get the racket down, impact, and finish way up, because by finishing up, it means that your racket has started low and is going, let's say, in a 45-degree upward motion. Second is to stay sideways during impact and after impact. You can do that by thinking to keep your chest looking in the same direction as you was before impact, during impact, and even after impact, your chest looking the same way. So if I were to hit the ball that way, it should look something like this. My chest has not moved, it's all the time moving, it's all the time looking towards Jonas or the camera. My chest is looking that way, I hit, it's looking that way, and I finish, and it's still looking that way. And then I can look over, and then I can let my foot come around. Okay, so my chest is always looking the same way, and the tip of the racket, really make it go over the ball and around. You're gonna really ensure that you're getting this movement. If you want this movement, but then you want to finish like that, or that's how you finish, you're not going to get the same topspin. The only topspin you can get like that is doing with your arm, but your arm doesn't move as fast as what your wrist does. Your wrist, is being your last joint of your arm, is much faster than your arm. Your arm maybe can create power, but it cannot create acceleration. And you want to accelerate the ball, you want to move the wrist, and making sure that your tip is looking the other way is going to make sure that you've done this movement correctly in order to be able to finish like that. Okay, if you were to finish like this, no topspin, also you can hit the ball maybe too high or hit the ball late, but if you go this way, you're going to hit it on the outside a little bit, you're going to brush the ball. At the end of the day, all the trajectory of your shot is going to be affected considering how you finish your shot. So really important, really put importance is how you finish your shot on every shot, your forehand, your backhand, your serve, your volleys, every shot is super, super important.
Very good tips there, Adri. Thanks a lot. I hope you guys watching this got something to work on with your own one-handed backhands. And if you're a double-handed backhand player that you want to switch to the one-handed backhand because it's such a beautiful shot, it's the most beautiful shot in tennis if you ask me, but also maybe one of the most difficult or the most difficult. But if you have a good two-hander, maybe it's easier to stay with that one than trying to get over to the one-handed, because we're suffering over here, but we're trying, we're working on it. Thanks a lot, Coach Adri.
Thank you.